On radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA online at the big1050.com and a special edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. Fitting that it coincides with a big time win, a splash play on the day of the pool party by Nimari Burnett, joining me as he does for every edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider. An All-American out of Clarkston High School, comes to the University of Michigan and becomes a first-round draft pick in 1984, plays for 10 seasons as a first-round draft pick in the NBA, and then becomes one of the best basketball commentators in all the land, college and pro, doing this thing on the Pistons broadcast, and of course with you here on the Michigan Basketball Insider. But he is my guy, my man, my big fella. I call him Timmy Mac, but he's known, of course, as Tim McCormick. Tim, good morning. How are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. Sam, last night was really a remarkable win. I will never forget where I was and how I felt when Jordan Poole took the pass from Abdul-Rahman in Wichita against Houston and nailed that improbable three to win a game that I just didn't think they were going to win. Last night, and look, I know that last night didn't have the same gravity or the same scene. It wasn't the same importance of a shot, but I will never forget it. And Nimari Burnett is going to be a hero to me for a long, long time. Look, I have to be honest, Sam. Last night, I was a bad Michigan fan. Okay, I have to admit it. For 2 hours, I sat there with a pad of paper, and I wrote out all the mistakes that Michigan was making. I hated their energy level from the very start. I had 3 pages of notes, and I just took them and I threw them all away. I was frustrated with open threes. This team can't shoot, and careless turnovers and ridiculous passes. They missed, I think, 11 free throws. Roddy Gale can't shoot. Trey Donaldson made the dumbest foul of the entire year, maybe in all of college basketball. If you're a point guard, why are you trying to block shots? All you have to do is get a hand up and contest it. What were you doing? And then Rutgers is a very mediocre defensive team. And how in the world do they get 11 steals? I was really upset. But, Sam, I feel better today because Michigan, with all their flaws, is in first place in the Big Ten. They control their own destiny. They're a top 15 team in the country. They're getting healthier, and everything is still out in front of them. So I feel better today. Last night, not so much.
Yeah, and I credit Dusty for not overlooking the deficiencies in a win. Like you want to celebrate the bottom line is you got it done. In the midst of getting it done, there's a lot that they are not doing well. It does not cover up the deficiencies. They haven't shot the ball well for weeks now, right? You're missing free throws at an alarming rate right now. I mean, that if they had lost that game, I would point to that first. You're giving up too much at the free throw line, and you got Rutgers is going to the line, and they're converting on the road. That's a problem. And then, of course, you got veterans making mistakes that you just can't make. You mentioned the foul by Trey on a 3-pointer for a guy that who you got to give Acuff a ton of credit. He came home. It's like, okay, yeah, you guys didn't recruit me. I want to show you. And he came, and you got to give him credit. He outplayed Trey in this game. You got to give him credit. Credit where credit is due. But with all of that being said, and if there's a theme to this team, these close games, they find a way. They couldn't find a way early in the season, Tim. And you're finding a way. Good teams figure out how, when it's winning time, to execute down the stretch and win games. And I'm not going to call it luck when you do it. Was it 9 times? Games of 4 points or less, they've been able to do it. That's not luck. You're making it happen. Michigan made it happen again last night.
Yeah, and I do want to make a comment about Trey Donaldson's foul. It's my biggest pet peeve. The 11th commandment, okay, on the tablet, thou shalt not foul a 3-point shooter ever under any circumstances. And I remember when I was coaching my son's AAU team, I told the players, I said, look, I'm going to be really upfront with you. If you foul a perimeter jump shooter, you're coming out of the game. Even if it's for one trip, I am pulling you out because that's not acceptable. As a defensive player, your job is just to be in the vicinity, go straight up, and that's it. Pat Riley, my coach with the Knicks, did a study, and he found he had his staff track 15-foot jump shots for an entire year. That those don't even happen nowadays. That's an analytical nightmare, right? But what he found is that NBA players make 52% of wide open 15-foot jump shots. If you just put a hand up, you don't even have to be near them, just put a hand up so they can see it, it goes down to 32%. You can't foul a jump shooter, especially in that circumstance. He did a really good job. He was in front of his man. He was going to contest really well. And then to jump into them right in front of the official was one of the worst plays that you could possibly make. I had a Houston Cougar game, not this year, but last year. And during practice, Kelvin Sampson, when one of his players fouled a 3-point shooter, blew the whistle, everybody knew immediately. They get on the baseline and they run sprints. He makes his team run sprints. It's a great teaching tool. Do not foul a jump shooter ever, ever, and especially with a top 15 team that is trying to win a title. I can't get over it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but again, you want to also give Rutgers some credit. I mean, Acuff, you look at how he was shooting the basketball, and one of the reasons why Trey fouled him was because the dude was going nuts from three. I'm not making an excuse. I'm crediting Acuff for coming in and shooting the basketball great, right? He came in, played well on the road. A defensive team in Rutgers, like you said, they don't. When is Rutgers playing good defense? Normally, that's a Steve Pikiell team. Not this year, Tim. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. They come in here and turn Michigan on. How did they do that? They're picking Michigan up full court. They're pressuring Michigan to try to offset some of their defensive deficiencies, right? And it worked for them because they were forcing Michigan, a team prone to some turnovers. They were forcing Michigan into some of those turnovers by picking them up full court, and that led to some of those easy points that Michigan could ill afford to give up and put Michigan down double digits at one point in this game.
I looked at it a little bit differently. I think that they were pressing and trying to pressure the ball because Michigan was so dominant in the paint. And if you're pressing, you're encouraging, Roddy Gale to try to make a play off the dribble, or, guys that are really struggling with their playmaking right now. Another thing that jumped out to me, Sam, is that we talked about it. Shooting is really fragile. You're one bad game from being in a shooting slump and questioning your mechanics and not feeling great about yourself. And about 2 weeks ago, I really noticed that Michigan was taking a lot of 26-foot three-pointers when in reality, a 23-foot three-pointer is so much easier. Now, Nimari Burnett and Steph Curry and guys that are shooters that's their job. They can make a 26-foot jump shot. But if you're looking at Roddy Gale, that's a guy that I think he can be an effective shooter, but he's got to get his toes on the line, shot ready. Ball's there, you're right in your shooting pocket. Michigan has been undisciplined from three for 2, maybe 3 weeks, and it's hard to get out of that. I saw so many shots last night where if they get a 1.5 2 feet closer, the shots are going to go in. And when you watch Roddy Gale, Sam, his shots are not close. You know, I mean, they're going left and right. From a 3-point shooter standpoint, you shoot as much as you want. If you're shooting a straight ball, it's a little bit long, a little bit short. But if it's left or right, you've got no shot. And so Michigan is going to have a breakout game from 3. I'm hoping that it's Maryland. I'm hoping it's Michigan State. But I think those fundamentals would really help them a lot.
Yeah, we've talked about this in various shows, various guys trying to analyze the why. And you're the one that I've heard beat that point home, and I think it's a good one. When you're struggling like they are, don't compound the difficulty by extending the distance. That seems to make sense, right? And guys are doing that consistently. As Ira said, we'll give Nimari a pass. He's maybe the one guy, especially on the last shot. But
that was beautiful. That was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah. One of the things that Dusty said though is he's paying attention to the process. He said, "How are we getting threes? Are we getting threes inside out? Are we getting them off of ball reversals? Are we making them in practice?" He said, "Roddy's making them in practice. I'm gonna let him shoot them in games." And I see what you see. I see the what he's taking in games. It's like, man, wow, he's making them in practice. Boy, something's happening in games that there's this disconnect because they don't look close. So I don't know how you bridge that gap, Tim, because you say all the time, what did you say? It's you earn the ability to shoot through. It's not a right, it's a privilege. It would seem once you get to a point where they're that off, you know, do you start to say, hey, maybe we drive that a little more, we pass that off a little bit more if they continue to be that off?
Yeah, and one other thing that I think is important to note is for the listeners, why is it important that you make your threes? Well, Michigan defensively has struggled recently because when they shoot threes, especially from the corner, those misses bounce out long and they act like outlet passes. And I think that Michigan's transition defense has had some slippage and it's not because they're not hustling back or they're not, finding their man. It's that the other team is playing 4-on-3 because they're getting long rebounds from missed threes. You start making those threes, that changes everything with your defensive numbers.
Yeah. I just, it's a tough deal with the runouts that causes. And I've heard Dusty talk about that too. He said he calls them 5-point swings. You miss a three, it's a long rebound. Next thing you know, they got numbers in transition, and it's a bucket. And there were a few of those. I mean, I want to say several of those last night. I don't have the stats in front of me to tell you exactly how many. I just know eyeball test. It felt like there were a number of those last night. And when you talk about the guys who you count on to be able to shoot and hit threes, Trey is one of them. The shots that he gets and makes, I don't think the kind of shot that he gets and makes have changed a great deal. Maybe to get him on track, it would be good to see him be able to maybe set up on the same side and get some of that inside out, be the beneficiary of some of that inside out action with a Vlad, or maybe even a Danny. And this is what I wanted to get to you with, Tim. Why don't they post him more?
I think he's really good in the post. I like that idea. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, why don't they post him more to try to get some of that inside out action, more of that, not just with Vlad. And then the other piece of it, because the reason why I say that is because I thought he had some matchups at times last night that they weren't able to take advantage of as much against when he was facing smaller guys. And then the other piece of it is, with Danny's threes. I remember a couple of weeks ago saying I wanted to see Danny shoot more threes, but he's getting some attempts off the bounce, and I don't know if that's his best shot. If he could get more catch and the catch and shoot variety, and I think he can get that as a screener, and maybe screening him more. I saw him get some shots that way that he felt looked like he was really comfortable shooting. Why don't they do more of that with him as well?
You bring up a brilliant point, Sam, as you usually do. So the answer to your first question about posting Danny is that it's hard to post him because Vlad is your go-to post guy. I talked earlier about the problem with missing threes that serves as an outlet pass. The other problem is the exact same thing that happened to the Detroit Pistons last year. Cade could not get to the rim. Jalen Duren on his rim runs and lobs was not open because the Pistons could not shoot the basketball. They were the worst shooting team in the league. You add Hardaway, you add Tobias Harris, Beasley, all of these shooters, and now all of a sudden there's a ton of space where you can drive and you can throw your lobs. And there's why do you think that Michigan is not having any success with their big on big pick and roll? It's because there's 5 guys either in the paint or with a foot in help position. There's nowhere to go. If you make shots, then all of a sudden Wolf and Vlad are going to be able to play pick and roll basketball, and you can post anybody up you want, but it's all a function of being able to make 35+% of your 3-pointers. Until they do that, nobody's going to leave the lane. And it's even going to be harder against a team like Maryland that's got 2 big studs that just sit right in the paint. So make threes and life gets a lot easier.
So what about the second point? You using him as a screener.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of pick and roll basketball because it's an equal opportunity play. You space your shooters, and the ball handler has the ability to take it all the way, and you put pressure on the defense to make a decision. It's absolutely the best play because it's an opportunity for everybody to potentially get open depending on how the defense plays. I think you're right, Sam. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, because most of the time it's Danny using the screen as opposed to being the screener. But I'm telling you, it feels like eons ago watching him be the screener and popping out, shooting a couple of threes. Like, man, that looks like that could be some good action for them. Maybe you bring that back a little bit and see if that can give him be a comfort zone for him. As far as getting some 3-point looks, and then maybe getting a little healthy, because I don't want to discount that either. Ruben missing from the line. I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to find some things. You heard Dusty talk about it last night. Nimari working his way back from a flu bug. He was talking about Will working his way back. Ruben's obviously out. Waiting to see if Sam can work his way back from the back ailment that he's fighting through. You're hoping that part of this breakout that you're talking about is that the health issue works its way out too, Tim. If all this can come together at the right time, that would obviously be a big assist for this team as well.
Yeah, I'm going to make a prediction that against Illinois that Reuben Jones will play and play well. And the reason I say that is when Nimari Burnett hit the 3, he went down to the other end celebrate. And the first Michigan Wolverine, he was in a full sprint, was Reuben Jones, and he jumped into Nimari Burnett's arms. And I thought, man, we need that speed on the court. Where were you tonight, Reuben? I think he's going to be good. He was a sprinter getting out there. And Sam, I want to pause just a second. And we've come up with all the things that Michigan is doing wrong, that they need to tighten up, that they're subpar. Forget all that for a second, because this is a team that has a chance to win a championship. 14-3 is their record. They're in first place in the Big Ten. March is tomorrow. Okay. March Madness is starting. And this has been a special year. I love mature teams. And with all of the issues that Michigan could be better at, they are clutch and they are very dangerous. And I think that some of the things that they're struggling with their shooting, with their free throws, with turnovers, with all of these things, they can get improved in a hurry. And so kudos to this team for finding a way to win. I don't see very many teams that are Big Ten champs that struggle like this with close games. Big Ten champs like Purdue last year, they steamrolled people, and their defense was locked down, and they knew who the go-to guys. Nobody could stop them. Like Michigan is doing this different, but man, if they continue what they're doing, Sam, this is a team to remember. They are high clutch.
Yeah, man, you had to gut one out through difficult circumstance. You lost a tough one at home in Michigan State, and you clearly, whether it's mental or physical fatigue, in a tough place to play on the road in Lincoln, you were able to gut that one out. And then you fought through more shooting woes, a very talented team at home that came in and gave you everything they had, and you figured out a way. We cannot go through this game, go through this episode without, we got to highlight Vlad. Man, Vlad came to play. 22 points, 11 rebounds, and the blocks. He gave you a presence defensively on the interior. You absolutely had to have it, considering the talent that they have on the other side. They had their moments, make no mistake, on the other side, but Vlad, the ability to give Michigan a presence on the interior, to keep them in the game, because there are a couple of times in that contest you felt like Rutgers was going to extend that double-digit lead, and it felt like Vlad was the one that kept them hanging in there.
You're right. And the last couple of weeks, I've vacillated, saying, okay, Danny Wolf's MVP of this team. And last night when I couldn't sleep last night, I was just kind of going through all these thoughts in my mind. And I said, you know what? Vlad Goldin's the MVP of this team right now. Like, he's just a rock. That block, I thought it was on Ace Bailey at the rim. Not positive about that. But Vlad has been the man, and he's playing the best ball of his career, and he looks like a pro to me. And just, you know, the one play at the elbow where he looked a little bit left and then dribbled to the weak side where there was nobody at and got a dunk. That was a huge play. Sam, another thing that I was thinking about is, why in the world would Michigan come out so darn flat and give up, what was it, like 57 points in the first half? Or no, it was more than that.
They gave up 57 points in the first half.
Okay, that was incredible. And I thought, well, why is that? Like, they're playing for so much. I looked at the schedule, and Michigan played at Indiana, sellout crowd. You know, that's the biggest game for the Hoosiers. Their coach is in a bad place. You know that crowd was just lit up. And then after that, you play Purdue. That's a payback game. That crowd was electric. And then you go on the road and play in a rivalry game with Ohio State. At least it's a big rivalry for the Buckeyes. And then you've got Michigan State. That's the game of the year right there. And then all of a sudden you've got to get on a short turnaround, and you go to Nebraska. Nebraska's fans are crazy. Like that was an unbelievable environment. And then all of a sudden you end up coming and playing Rutgers, you've already beaten, and it's a 9:00 start, and the crowd is a little bit dead. Like there's no way that crowd was anywhere near what we saw for Purdue or Michigan State, or it was a bad environment to start. It picked up late, but you could really see why this team might have come out a little bit flat last night.
Yeah, well, they found a way, and that's again, you talk about the theme of this team. When you don't play your best, they still find a way to win. Before you give us your full preview of Sunday's game, I want to give you a minute to Tim, you get a lot of calls right. And you said when all of the talk was going on, when the people in Bloomington were like, hey, Dusty May, you're like, keep doing all that talking if you want to. Dusty's going nowhere. This is not even a conversation. Warren Manuel is going to sign him to an extension. This is going to be over before you know it. Well, Tim, you were right. You called it. That extension got done, and the folks in Bloomington are crying sweet tears. Dusty May is staying home being Ann Arbor.
Yeah, he's a smart man, and you've got to protect your house at all points. And Dusty's mom lives in Bloomington. His in-laws live in Bloomington. His family and friend, extended family and friend are in Bloomington. And I think someday there's a good chance that Dusty May will live in Bloomington, but not as a basketball coach, as an older retired guy. And you don't want to mess up your house. If things go south and you're the coach, then you've kind of tainted where you live. And so I think it was a really smart move by Ward Manuel. Kudos to him. Great leadership, seeing a concern and taking care of it. Dusty May is going to be the Big Ten Coach of the Year. If Michigan wins the Big Ten championship, I think he'll be the National Coach of the Year. Last year, Michigan won 8 games, picked middle of the pack preseason. This year, he had to go out and find talent and then build chemistry. What he's done has been incredible. And so it's a positive story. I'm glad he's staying because I think that he's going to be able to build a lasting legacy here in Ann Arbor.
Yeah. All right. So let's fast forward to Sunday's game against an Illinois team. You talk about expectations. Preseason expectations was this Illinois team was one of the squads that was picked to be a Big Ten championship contender. That has since gone by the wayside. Yeah, they recently beat Iowa, but boy, that was just after they got destroyed by Duke. I believe it was the worst loss in program history. They have been flailing. A program that or team that Brad Underwood, to me, has coached confusingly with their inability to shoot threes, and still has emphasized it to a maddening degree. And I think it's sort of undermined the productivity of this team. But that doesn't mean they aren't dangerous, Tim. And so give us the handicap or the scout of that game this coming weekend, this coming Sunday against the Illini.
Well, Jaka Jonas and Will Riley are pros. So they're going to be a problem. They've got 5 guys that basically average double figures. So they're very balanced. I don't go by their recent record and discount their abilities, just because of the fact that when they played, I think Michigan State, Wisconsin, and that Duke game, man, they got beat by 40 points, and they were sick. We saw that flu bug went right through Michigan's front line. Well, it hit basically Illinois' entire team. They want to play fast. They rely on 3-point shooting, which is hard for me to imagine, because if you can't shoot, then why are you doing that? But they are capable. They just knocked off Iowa pretty good, and I think that there's a little hatred brewing between Illinois and Michigan. I think that Brad Underwood is going to emphasize this game, but I also feel like Michigan's fans have a distaste for the Illini, and I think that it'll be a great crowd. Michigan is a much better defensive team, and they have much more in the low post and points in the paint. And once again, Sam, at some point, Michigan needs to make 10 threes. If they make 10 threes, that may be enough to jumpstart them, and it's all about shot selection.
Yeah, that might be the difference in this game, which team can actually hit their threes. Because as much as you talk about the other teams' inability to hit threes, much like the Michigan State game, you could turn the tables on Michigan. Because Michigan is in that boat now. They can't hit their threes. Last night, notwithstanding, they were able to hit it at the end, of course, with Nimari Burnett. But if they can't shoot, that's kind of like the great equalizer. It kind of brings you back down to earth. But Michigan's at home. Clearly, they're a team that knows how to close. Winning these tight games, they know what they're doing, and that to me gives them the edge in this affair. And so I like the Wolverines this weekend. Tim, I like it when we pick these up in on these morning affairs, these morning efforts, especially after wins like the one we saw last night. I know you got to scoot, get to the airport. And these Pistons, 8-game winning streak. Let's keep that going as well. So I appreciate you, Tim. We'll see you next time on the next edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider, my friend.